Welcome to the Nehemiah Entrepreneurship Community Podcast. I'm your host, Patrice Sagay, and I'm here with, you've become a regular here, Allison. So you guys know
Yeah.
her. Yeah, Allison Wilkinson. You and I always have a ball. That's why I love having you in studio as a guest because, we get down to it. We get relaxed. We kick our feet. We kind of take off our shoes and we just go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. If business isn't fun, then it gets boring to do over time. You're like, forget it.
Then just get a
Have some
job,
fun.
right?
Yeah. Get a
I
job.
love
Have
it.
some fun if you're going to be an entrepreneur.
Yes, if you're gonna, it's got to be worth it. All right,
Yeah.
so I'm here with Allison Wilkinson. You are in the e-community podcast. Allison, welcome back. You just came back from Kenya.
I sure did.
So today we're going to talk about the launch of the I Am School of Music in Kenya. When you were here last time, it was a dream, it was a vision, it was a fantasy. Now it is a reality.
What was amazing is while I was there, I actually got to meet people who I had met through BSA, the Business Success Accelerator. Because of COVID, I got to be in a Business Success Accelerator centralized in Kenya. And I remember saying to them, I'm going to come to Kenya and see you. I'm going to come to Kenya and see you, which total pipe dream. That was never going to happen. And then all of a sudden, I'm in a room with all of them. I'm in one of their homes and I'm eating food and I'm talking to everybody and they're there in person. And I'm like, this is what God does. This is what God does. He makes all things possible. He makes miraculous things happen. If you'd have told me a year ago, if you'd have told me a year ago I was going to be in Kenya, I would have been like, oh, sure. Yeah, that's what God does.
And by the way, I am 24 hours from being on a plane to Kenya myself. Aren't you jealous?
Yes. Very jealous. Next time we need to coordinate this trip so that both of us go together.
I know, right? I know. But you know what? You're like John the Baptist. He had to go late, prepare the way.
That's right. I am just here as a pre-show.
That makes me Jesus. I'm not sure that didn't sound right. But but you know what, Allison? First of all, thank you so much for your commitment to Kenya and to Africa. Congratulations on your launch. Allison, you've been an e-community member for a year and a half now? 1 year.
1 year.
So in 1 year as an e-community member, you've launched a business. In 1 year, you've completed biblical entrepreneurship. You came second for the Asia. The judges did not pick the right person. You tell me. You have my vote. You were second at the International Business Plan Competition, the regional business competition for Asia. And matter of fact, your talk inspired the person who came in really fifth place for the international competition, because you gave a talk around the fact that even though you did not win, that you will become the Jennifer Hudson of biblical entrepreneurship.
That's the plan.
Right.
She won seventh and she's doing just fine.
That's right. So
yeah.
So you've also gone through the business. You're a member of BSA, the Business Accelerator. Your business was featured this year at Nehemiah Week at the Kingdom Business Tour. Man, let me tell you something, guys. If you did not come to Nehemiah Week, you can now have access to on demand. I tell you, you want to check out the I Am School of Music for the tour. She was amazing. And then through the e-community, you're now being able. No. Let me go back. I talked to you often. I said you were looking to raise capital, and you didn't qualify for our capital, so we guided you through the SBA, and you actually raised some capital through the SBA.
Yes,
isn't that incredible? So you know what's funny? There's a client right now who is in your situation, who I'm helping to raise capital. And I'm going to take him to the SBA because he doesn't qualify for our capital. And so we do the same thing. And so I said, so I use as an example because he was kind of discouraged because he didn't qualify for capital. I said, hey, listen, Allison didn't qualify, and look what happened to her. Now he's, we looking to raise $500,000 to $2 million with him. That's a little bit more money, but
Yeah.
the principles are the same, right?
Right.
So you were able to raise some operation happened through the SBA, and I want to commend you on that, by the way, Allison, because most people would have been discouraged, but you were not. We began the coaching program, and through that process, you raised that money. And you're going to need to raise more money. We'll talk about it later in our coaching session. You need more capital, but at least you got it going. So, but then you got this opportunity for Kenya through the BSA program, community. You got a chance to launch in Kenya. So first, let's talk a bit about the last 1 year and all that has happened. Now looking backwards, what were some key things you say that, Patrice, if I look back, I said these were key to preparing for this moment? What were some things looking backwards?
The biggest thing that made any success in this year happen, and I don't mean to seem as though I'm blowing smoke or blowing sunshine, but honestly, the biggest thing that prepared me for the difficulties of running a business was Nehemiah. Business success accelerators, being in a community of faithful Christian entrepreneurs, because that's what I feel. The BSA education is excellent, but that community was key. And then when I took biblical entrepreneurship, all of the pieces fell in line, because Patrice, that this year was tough. Tough.
Yeah.
But in biblical entrepreneurship, you really get into what is my purpose? What am I doing here? How am I going to do this in a way that fulfills the purpose that God gave me? So I'm thinking actually about the story of Joseph that you use in biblical entrepreneurship. And what's your Joseph story? How has God prepared you for this? How is he going to sustain you? And actually in biblical entrepreneurship, the thing that I got from that, besides the education and the incredible time that I had in biblical entrepreneurship, is I got the one thing that I desperately needed to be able to succeed as an entrepreneur, which is that I learned how to depend on the Lord for absolutely everything. That I wasn't going to succeed in business unless every single morning I was devoting time to him before I did any business. My hands weren't allowed to do anything else until I had worshiped the Lord, until I had brought my prayers to him. As my business has succeeded, as it has increased, so has my reliance on the Lord. And that has led me to a place of faith where I was able to go to Kenya and believe God has called me here. This is what I'm going to be doing. It gave me the confidence to be able to keep going, because as a new entrepreneur, the one thing you're always asking yourself, or the one thing I've asked myself over the past year is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this even, should I just quit? Am I done? Is this when the game ends? Is this what's happening? But having that solid biblical perspective on God's plan for my life, the community that said, no, don't stop, don't quit, and the solid biblical education was absolutely indispensable.
That's powerful. As you were sharing, I thought a couple of things went through my mind. This is year one for you. You're in the startup phase. And first, before I go to that, let's talk about what you do, for just in case some of our listeners and viewers are watching and listening, and they don't know what the I Am School of Music is. So what is the I Am School of Music?
The I Am School of Music has the goal of redeeming music to return it to the purpose that God created for it, which is to connect us, to bless us, and to worship the King. To make sure that if anyone is learning music, they are learning music in such a way that helps them connect, express themselves, and worship the King. That is what we want to do.
You believe, Allison, that all of us, the gift of music is for all of us. no matter whether we believe we can sing or not. The gift of music is in all of us because we were created to worship. And one of the things that you help us to do is to remove as we see in Our Day in Destiny, the roadblocks, the fears, and the limiting belief that keeps us from experiencing that gift of music. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. Because unfortunately, if you look back in the history of music education, what you find is that the enemy had a very strong hold on making people think that being a musician was a very narrow thing to be. I have to do all of these things. I have to be good in this particular way. And if I'm so excellent, then I can be a musician. And when only this number of people feel confident to worship the Lord with their music, what has the enemy accomplished? He's accomplished us not worshiping the way that we should. He has broken us from connection with each other. He has kept a blessing from us.
He's robbed us of our worship, I'm thinking, as you're talking.
Absolutely. And he's done it very effectively over a long time. And that's not the way it's meant to be. That's not the way it's meant to be. And that's what I'm trying to bring. And, that's a big vision. But what I've been in my Joseph journey, what I've been taught, what I've been shown is the granular. How do you take something from this terrible place and make it good? And that's what I bring to teachers. That's what I bring to students. That's what I bring to schools. How are you going to take it from here, where music is only for special people, and bring it all the way to here, where music is for everybody and everybody feels confident to make music?
I love it. And part of the other tenets of your belief, and part of why you do what you do, you also believe that as we tap into that gift of music and that expression of worship, that its benefit in our daily lives is holistic in terms of both academic, intellectual, career, talks a bit about that, because you have this belief that somehow musical people somehow have a higher potential for high performance, not necessarily musical professionals, but just people who are able to tap into the gift of music within them.
Yeah, well, you and I have talked about this, because you're like, well, what about people who didn't study music? Can we still be successful? Like, wait a minute, I feel left behind.
People like me.
Yeah, right. Well, it's funny though, because I talk about this all the time, because God's gift, when they're done well, produce good things in us. And that's part of what music is meant to create, is a benefit for us. And it's funny because I ask people, name some famous musicians, and what are they? I mean, okay, go ahead. Name some famous musicians that you know of.
I would go to, Whitney Houston.
Mm-hmm.
I would go to Michael Jackson. I would go to Jennifer
Hudson.
Yeah, Hudson. I would go to, I'll go to the commonly known musician. One of my favorites, CeCe Winans. I love me some CeCe.
Mm-hmm. I grew up on her. She's fantastic.
She's amazing.
What about Condoleezza Rice?
See, I would think of more as a career government, government diplomat or government professional or government politician, not necessarily as a state woman, not necessarily as a musician.
But she was a concert pianist, meaning that she had reached such a high level of musicality that she was going to go into a career as a pianist, but she took all of those benefits that she got from music education and brought it to being the first African-American woman who was Secretary of State. And then, let's see, who else? Albert Einstein. 3 of the 4 guys who landed on the moon were classically trained musicians. I went to Kenya and I found out that, there's a massive communications company there called Safaricom. And the guy who founded Safaricom was a classically trained musician.
Wow. So what is it then about music that gives such an edge in terms of career or public performance?
Well, the first thing, the most obvious thing, the easiest thing to talk about is that it increases math capacity, 20 to 25% higher grades in math for students who study music. And that's not if they study music and also study extra math. That's just if they study music, they get 20 to 25% higher math grades. Because when you read music on a staff, which has 5 lines, if you read it note by note like this, you're doing geometry without knowing you're doing geometry. You're just doing it. And if you read notes or more than one at a time, like a chord, like you play on a piano or guitar, you are reading and it's processing in your brain as algebra. So if you're playing piano and you're doing this and this at the same time, you're doing calculus, and you can get kids to do that as young as 5.
And then it's fun because music is fun. Danica Howard, Danica is a coach in certification with us. She says CC Wine was at her church last week.
You know what? That's a brag.
Isn't that incredible? That's awesome. Ooh, I'm so jealous. You know, one day I'm gonna hire CC Wine to worship for us. I just love that woman. She's so great. What I love about CC Wine is she's been able to preserve the worship, the essence of worship. In her, you know, as she evolved as a musician, she didn't sell out, as they would say. I love it.
No, she stayed right in the center of it. But back to the other reason. You know what you can't do as a musician? You can't cheat. So if you're playing a piece and you haven't put in every piece of the work that you're supposed to put in, there's no skating. You know how like in school, sometimes they'll be like, oh, I kind of fudged this essay or I went kind of off you can't do that in music. You have to do the work or the performance isn't good. So students who do music, they know how to really get in and do the heavy work. So if you know how to do that and all of a sudden you're used to it and those muscles are strong, those muscles of always getting all the pieces together, then you take that to medicine. 60% of American medical doctors are classically trained musicians. So it's, that's why musicians tend to be so successful, classically trained musicians. Yeah.
So I think as a business coach, I'm going to try to encourage my clients to learn some kind of musical instrument as a way to heighten the other dimension of their acumen. You know, that's a great question. Danica, hey, you got it from me, Danica. That's a good technique for us to use. So let's talk about your trip to Kenya. I'm talking to Allison Wilkinson, the CEO and founder of the I Am School of Music, about her launch into Kenya. So you are international now.
Yes, sir.
You have a current strategy of acquiring new clients into Kenya. So first, talk to us a bit. When you get on that plane for Kenya, first I want to commend you a great deal. I've never met a more resilient woman. I want to say that publicly. I've never met a more resilient woman. But also, what I love about you, Allison, you're not a faker either. You know, some people act resilient, right? They kind of got this sense of, I'm full of faith. They act resilient. You don't act resilient. You just are. Because resilience is not an ability to feel pain and hurt in midst of trials, nor even to avoid it. But resilience is the ability to press through it and even to allow the emotions of it, to experience the emotions of it and get healed by it. And get perfected by it and come out of the other side smelling like gold, that we've been through the fire and through the rain. And I've watched you, you are like Miss Resilient. And it's just been fun to watch you from season to season. It's only been a year. And then God must have a plan for you. Either he has a plan for you or my Lord Jesus, you got a tag on your back, Allison, because in only a year, it's as though I've watched you go through 10 years of trials, right? There's a purpose for your life, girl. You're talking about Joseph. So So let me tell you, that Danica says, I love equipping musicians to know who and whose they are that can be successful, maintain their success, especially kingdom influence in music. Look at
Exactly.
you.
Exactly.
Look at you.
Exactly.
Amen.
Yes.
Well said, Danica. We have a co-host here, Danica. I
I
love it.
know.
Well
Yeah, she's
said.
coming in.
You are awesome. So, by the way, Danica is an amazing guy who's right now going through our coach certifications. An amazing coach. I look forward to co-coach with and watching her just thrive.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this. So you get to the airport. Let me tell you, Allison, you get to the airport. And you
Yeah.
discover, and by the way, I may have given you the wrong advice too, because up to that point, I thought there was no visa required, and so so you get to the airport, and what do you find out? You're ready for Kenya. What do you discover?
Yeah, so I'm all there. I mean, this is the day. This is the day. August 20th. I am leaving for Kenya. God has made all of this happen. I am there with my daughter who I brought. We get up to the counter and they say, "Where's your visa?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm going to get it when I get there." And they said, "No, the rules changed in January. Where's your visa?" So I'm hopping on my phone thinking I'm going to get this visa. They said, "Can you pull over?" I'm there. Da, 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 da. I'm looking and it says 3 to 7 days.
I mean, I hate to laugh. It was not fun at the time, to be honest with you. But it is. So here it is. Your dream for Kenya right in front of you. I mean, literally right there is just falling apart, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm thinking to myself, well, first of all, I'm just in kind of trying to get it done mode. But of course now I'm in this space and I'm weak because I don't have my together and nothing's together anymore. Everything's fallen apart. And I find that the good news is the enemy doesn't have a lot of new tactics. So I was weak. So he was going to come in and try to make something bad there. So he was telling me, he goes, "See, I told you can't hear from the Lord. See, God isn't even in this. Look at what happens." And I was just like, I was standing in faith, but also kind of fighting that fight. So now I'm fighting the visa people, and I'm fighting the enemy, and I'm like, ah! And finally, it's just like we realized we're not getting on this plane today.
And don't you hate that? Now, here's what I love about you. You're so coachable. You always take full responsibility. That's the gift you have. That's part of resilience. And even when you because I'm thinking, I would have said, Patrice didn't tell me, Frank didn't say anything. I mean, right? I said nobody. But you blame no one, and you owned it, but you were falling apart. It gets better, guys.
Yeah.
So by the grace of the Lord, within 24 hours, things stirred. Look at God.
So I went home. I'm weeping in PDX, not because I'm falling apart, but because I'm just like, this was my dream and it hurts a little bit right in this moment. So I'm in PDX, ugly crying, really making friends and influencing people. So my husband comes, he picks me up, we go home.
This is the CEO of the I Am School of Music, by the way, guys.
Yeah, yeah, big deal. They didn't care at the airport. They're like, "No, we got to have that visa." So we go home and we start working, and we're like, "Can we get the flight changed?" Yes, we can get the flight changed. It's expensive, but we can get the flight changed. And while we're in the middle of that, now here's God, ready? While we're in the middle of that, we're like, well, if I'm going a day late, why don't I stay 3 days later?
Wow.
Now it turns out, Patrice, that is exactly what I needed to do. I had only scheduled a week there, but because I had only scheduled a week, I didn't have time to go and visit clients. Wow. I hadn't put that in my original schedule.
Look at God, glory.
And then just to confirm everything, we had spent so much time in line. We got the tickets. We showed up the next morning to go to Kenya. No lines. So that's to start. We're through security and through everything that we need in 15 minutes. We're sitting there. We get on the first plane to go, where was the first plane to Seattle? And we just have just a sweet little flight over there, me and my daughter. We get on the plane in Seattle to go to Doha, Qatar. And we sit next to the most lovely Kenyan Christian woman. And we had this lovely time. My daughter and I got to talk to her about what we wanted to do. She encouraged us in the Lord. We get on the next flight from Doha to Nairobi, and I'm sitting next to this guy. We talk deeply about Jesus, about the Bible for 2.5 hours on this plane from Doha to Nairobi. And then he spends a full 30 minutes praying for me.
Look at
on
God.
the plane.
Look at God.
Guess what, Patrice?
What?
This guy was a UN diplomat. He was a UN diplomat. So we get to Nairobi and he says, I can't leave you until I know you're safely through this airport. He helped us get all the paperwork that we needed because it got complicated when we got there. He zipped us through diplomatic check-in and then got us to the other side safely to our car. And that was just the tip of the iceberg of how God blessed us. That was just how we knew that God had made that work. So it kept getting better from there.
Needed to arrange for your angel to be positioned to facilitate your way through, because he knew that he may be a UN diplomat, but you are a diplomat of the kingdom. And he needed to make sure that Ambassador Allison gets red carpet treatment at the airport.
Yeah.
I love it. Nathan said they laid destiny. Nathan also is one of our children, the coach. Nathan, good to have you here. I love it. Danica said, wow, she's in New York City, 2 blocks from where she saw the UN diplomat into town down that. Wow.
If you see Daniel, say hi for me.
I love it. Danica also said, this is such an encouraging story, especially considering the situation I'm sitting in right now myself. Amen to that. Maureen. Now, Maureen's an author. I think Maureen will be on the podcast on Friday. Maureen, I did get your email about your book. I'm looking forward to having you on. And Maureen, I'm going to give you my statement after that interview, if you allow me to do that. Maureen, she has a great book. We're going to talk about it on Friday. Maureen, I'll be interviewing from Kenya. So Maureen says God turns everything together. Maureen is also a community member. And so that is incredible. What an amazing story. So now you know that this is God's plan. Right. Mm-hmm. In other words, you there's this. What I love about the Lord is that, yes, he lets you go through the trials, but he quickly, as you pass the test, he quickly validates and affirms, and you have this. You go from a crybaby to this giant in him. I mean, you go from this whiner to, come on, devil, let's get it on. I mean, didn't you walk into Kenya like you own the place?
Well, you know what? I was at that point, it was sort of like, if nothing else, okay, so what God accomplished, I love watching what God accomplishes in his trials for his people, because I've been through a couple in my life, and I love looking back and watching the hand of God. What God accomplished by not putting me on the plane on Friday was he took, this was very strong. He took away the idea that I was in control of anything.
I love it.
He just went, nope, this is all me. If anything is going to happen on this trip, it's not going to be by your might. It's going to be by my might. So you just stand in faith, which really helped, because the first conference that we did was for school directors. They were an hour and a half late, which could have been.
Welcome to Africa.
Well, it could have been nerve-wracking, but I was kind of at that point, I already had missed the plane that first day. I was like, you know what? They're late. They'll show up if God wants them to show up, And sweet Frank Katonga, the coach over there, was like, Allison, this is very normal. I don't know if you're worried. And I was like, I'm out of worry. I spent it on Friday. They'll be here if they're here. So
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. I love what you're saying. So that first test prepares you for the test to come, right?
Yeah.
But let's talk about the wow factors out of Kenya. So you have how many directors were in that session?
So there were 10 directors in that session, which was
And
less
so
than
these are
had signed up.
yeah, but these are school owners, right? So these they
Right.
represent about 10 schools, right? So this is representing probably a total of maybe probably 5 to 10,000 kids in Kenya.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
So and these are big shots. So these aren't people that just make a decision to. So
No.
by the end of your session, I mean, I've got word all the way here in Vancouver, Washington. It was that from you. What was the feedback?
Well, it was interesting because I've given this session a few times to American directors. And they were people who knew me, but we were in these conferences and I couldn't get feedback from them because they were virtual because they were all COVID. So I couldn't get feedback. So I'm giving this now live in a country I've never been in to people I've never met who don't know
And
me from
and
anybody.
and you're not speaking the language. They speak English. You speak American.
Right. So yes, I had one lady get she was extremely sweet, but I was like, "Oh, Betty." And she goes, "No, my name isn't Betty. It's Betty." And I was like,
That's
she goes,
right. That's
"There's
right.
a T in it. There's 2 T's." And I was like, "Betty,
They're
your name
speaking the
is Betty."
Queens, and you're coming there with ghetto American English.
Right. And so I'm trying to speaking Swahili some and speaking like English. So it was crazy. But I'm there and I'm talking and I'm just trying to obey the Lord and do what I've prepared because I've come prepared. And we go through it and everyone's late and we only have the room for a little bit. And I was like, so we're probably going to have to cut some of the breaks short. So I'm talking and I'm going through the lies of music education, that it's about us, that it's about special people, and I'm going to the truths of music education, that it's about God, that it is about everybody. And as I'm talking and I'm going through all of this, I get to a point and I was like, here we can take a little bit of a break. And everybody is making eye contact with me and they're saying, "No, we don't need a break. Just keep talking." And then, so I kept talking and I never got a break for that whole session because they were so engaged. Every time I was saying, "Should we take a break now?" They're like, "No, just keep going. Just keep going." And by the time the session was over, and this is totally the grace of God, by the time the session was over, these 10 directors were all on their phones to their friends being like, "So I just came to this thing and you need to send your people. They're doing another one on Thursday. Send your people because they have to come." And so we do a session for music teachers on Thursday and we get people from schools that didn't come on Tuesday because they're like, "Oh, my school director said I had to come to this because she heard." So it was packed Thursday.
Wow.
Packed Thursday.
So you kind of have momentum. B. Brown's good to have you here. She love it. Danica says, "Speak American." I love it. So this momentum kind of began to hit. Now, I talked with you, I think a couple of days that day or whatever, and you were like walking on cloud 9.
Yeah.
It was a star was born.
Yeah. It was incredible watching what God was doing.
I mean, it was incredible. And so when you look at the trials that to get there, you look at you kind of being on that stage and the reception and this vision you've had of I Am School of Music. What was going on the inside of you as you went to bed at night?
To be honest, nobody's asked me that question, but to be honest, when I got in bed at night, I got seriously attacked by the enemy.
Wow.
Because of course I did. And so I would go to bed tired. And of course I was weak. And the enemy only has so many tactics. So I'm tired at night. I've given my all. I've obeyed the Lord to the best of my ability. And I just keep getting these attacks, which is ridiculous because I have all this evidence all day that things are great. But the enemy is like, this isn't going to, they don't really, blah, 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 blah. And so I would I'd get in bed every night and just pray and just pray and just pray and remind myself that my hope is not in myself, but it's in the Lord. And if the
Wow.
Lord started it, that he will not end it. And that's how I went to bed every night, was praying. Nobody's asked me that, but that's what happened.
That is incredible. Now, Allison, one of you and I had a number of coaching sessions before you left, and I really put pressure on you to monetize the trip. First of all, you are so coachable, and you wanted to make this trip. You wanted to bless the people of Kenya, and I said to you, blessings will come later. Let's make some money first.
Yeah.
and you, so I kind of set your expectation up to say, Allison, success by this trip means you come back with some money, right? And now, in a sense, I set you up for another challenge in the end there, and I want to kind of talk about it.
Okay.
So everybody loves Allison, and yes, you having these attacks, but during the day you're getting this reassurance because they love the message. It's innovative, it's refreshing. You're bringing life into these schools, and then and I'm putting pressure on you to close. Right? Every time we talk, I'm just I'm saying I said, Allison, you got to build a business here.
Yeah.
So, but before you leave Kenya, you've got some excitement, you've got some momentum, but how many checks did you have?
I had no checks.
Let's talk about that.
Okay, let's talk about it.
So how did that feel, and how did you navigate that? And so I can look at there's an upside after this, but I want to first hear about that, because as entrepreneurs, you're still a startup, right? You're getting pressure from your coach. That was pressure on you. You just had this wow. But I'm saying to you, Allison, we got to make some money.
Yeah.
In the end.
We're having these 16-hour days, and
that's right.
So looking back with my just my thinking brain and not my feeling brain, the mistake we made business-wise was having too high a cost to enter. So I needed some down. I needed some down market.
You had $20,000 packages, $10,000 packages,
$40,000 packages,
$40,000 packages. So there was nothing in between.
There was nothing that people could come into my business with at a low end.
That's right.
But of course, at that time, so honestly, I was getting attacked at night, but I think the Lord was allowing that to just remind me, come back to me. So actually in the evening, even as I'm attacked, I'm finding joy because I'm relying on the Lord again. But I tell you what, about the night before we left, or maybe 2 nights before we left, I was tired. I was physically tired. I was mentally tired from connecting to so many people. I was emotionally tired. I was spiritually tired. And I still had the joy of the Lord, but I could feel my body. I could just feel the fatigue affecting my body. But I was staying in someone's home. So I'm here with all this fatigue in my body, and I feel the Holy Spirit being like, just let your body work through this. Your body is made to have a feeling and work it through and then be done with it. You can do this, just do it. And I'm like, well, I'm in a house with a whole bunch of people. I don't really want to, I'm not a big crier anyway. Do I really want to cry here in the middle of someone's house? So I go to completely the other side of the house, as far away as I can get. And I like get into a ball, and I just ask the Holy Spirit, like, I'm just weeping, because I'm like, this is not like, I see your blessings. I see your blessings, and we have no money. What do I do? And the Holy Spirit's like, you just trust me. And I just wept, both in fatigue, but also in joy that God wasn't letting go of me, and then in just sadness that I hadn't done what I thought I needed to do. I got caught.
That's right. Pause there. We're going to continue this. We're going to continue this because there's a lot more, and it gets better.
Yeah.
Allison, first, thanks for being vulnerable, because I hate to leave it in a cliff, but we're going to have to leave it here. We're going to continue.
Oh.
This is the launch of the I Am School of Music. And Allison, we're going to follow you very carefully, because I think your journey as an entrepreneur is all of our journey. Some of us are going through it now. Some of us have gone through it, and some of us will go through it. And the question becomes, how do you deal with the you're a rock star now. You're not. You're a hero. You're a zero. How do you deal with that reality, right? And you are navigating it so well. So we're gonna we're gonna pause there. But before we leave, though, I want Alice to give you some advice. Some of you guys have experienced some of the emotions that Alice just talked about. And I want her to give you some advice in terms of how, if you're going through it now, and if you're going to go through it, what are some key things that's been helping her? And we're going to bring Allison back. Allison, as a matter of fact, produced before because we're going to bring you back with Frank and with Nina. But before we do, I want to bring you back by yourself.
Okay.
Because I want to finish this story. Maureen says, I want to hear the rest. You will, Maureen. So Maureen, you got to stay tuned. You got to stay tuned. So if you enjoyed this podcast and it really means it to you, I want you to share it. Friends share good things with friends. Share it with your friends. Share it on your social media profile. Share with others. You might know other people like Alice and other entrepreneurs and other wannabe entrepreneurs, and you might say this may encourage them. I want you to share it with them. Also, if you want to know more about the I Am School of Music, why don't you visit? Allison has a website, and that website is, Allison, it's iammusic.life. iammusic.life. There you can learn about the various opportunities that Allison has for people like yourself and myself to learn how to be musical, and how you can also connect with her for your organization to bring this spirit-filled experience of music into your school, into your church, into your organization. All right, so go there and check her out. And by the way, if you're a member of the e-community, Allison is a member. You can go and like her and send her notes, get her contact, connect with her, because how she connected with Kenya was through the e-community. And there's a lot more. We're going to bring some folks later and talk more about that. If you want to buy the Nehemiah Project, how we can come alongside you and provide you with training, coaching, and access to capital, visit our website, nehemiahecommunity.com, nehemiahecommunity.com. There you can learn about our training program, biblical entrepreneurship, identity and destiny, serve with love. You can learn how to take your business to another level or to start a new one. You can learn about our coaching program, whether it's executive business coaching, group coaching, or elite coaching, how we can bring a coach alongside you to help you as you look to grow your business, as we've done with Allison. You can also learn about our Access to Capital program, how we can help you through other resources or our own financing to help you raise the capital you need to expand or to launch your business. But also you can learn about how to become a member of the community. Membership does have its privileges. We are one of the fastest growing entrepreneurship community in the nation. And we believe that we want to touch entrepreneurs all over. You're one of them. We have members in Asia, in Africa, in Europe, in Latin America, so that you can connect with entrepreneurs who are God-fearing and who are all seeking to build businesses that transform community nation. Come, let us transform the world together. With that, as I promised you, Allison gave us advice. So Allison, I'm watching. If I'm Maureen, I'm Danica, I'm Nathan, and I'm watching, listening to this, and I'm going through, right? What advice would you give us? What are some key things you can share with us that helped you navigate and that we can also be inspired by?
I'm going to sound like a broken record on all these podcasts. I agree with Danica, by the way. Don't let the grass grow under your feet. The biggest piece of advice, if you're really going through it, is to get support, which would be, I recommend Nehemiah to all my friends. I'm like, hey, have you ever thought about doing a business? You should join Nehemiah. You should just check it out. It's great. It's so good. So that's, practically. But I am going to sound like a broken record on all of these because my advice would be to remember the goodness of God. Remember the goodness of God in your life. And then absolutely scour the Bible for examples of his goodness again. Because God is faithful. And if you feel like you need more of those stories, so many of you today, like I've been reading, thank you so much for this story. Thank you so much for your story. This has really helped me today. There's more stories. There's stories of God being faithful to the Israelites in Egypt, to bring them out, to provide for them, to give them food and water and direction and love and healing. There's examples all through the Bible of God being faithful. Look at Jesus's ministry to come back and to redeem us. The biggest gift that you have, the biggest sign of goodness, is that Jesus has redeemed you from sin and loved you well. And if he has done that, that miracle, then he can sustain you through anything. There's nothing harder that God did than come and die for you. What else could be more difficult than that? Just ask the Lord, commit it to prayer because he answers prayers. Trust that no matter what is happening, God has a plan, because you can see that all through the Bible, that God had a plan. It didn't look the way the person thought it should, but he always, always, always comes through.
Wow, good word. With that said, Allison, you rock. We're going to bring you back to look at part 2 of this, the launch of the I Am School of Music in Kenya. We're going to have you back, and we're going to bring you back with Frankie Tanga and your host in Kenya, Nina, the 2021 2020 International Business Plan Competition winner. Listen, if you're in Kenya watching, Queen Nina, if you're Kenya watching right now, I'm going to see you the next couple of weeks as I'm on my way to Nairobi, Kenya. Well, love you guys so much. Let me pray for you guys. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord enable you to steward those talents that are under your care, as Allison is doing. And may you steward them in such a way that one day you will hear those wonderful words. Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few things. Guess what? He'll not make you rule over much. God bless you. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you all. Thank you, Allison.
You're welcome.